Okay, brothers and sisters, as you can see on your screen, June 25th was the birthday of Tamir Rice, uh, who was lynched, back in 2014, November 22nd, 2014. And I thought that we should talk about this because um, this is one of the most tragic of all of the police killings, in my opinion. It's certainly one that of the killings that took place during that particular time frame. The killing of Tamir bothered me more and still bothers me to this day. There's just something about that look. This picture was taken in his classroom, and there's just something about this look on his face. And when I see pictures of his mother, Samaria, a strong sister who would not cave in like the other sisters who went running behind Hillary Clinton when she was running for president. It's just something about him. I will say this, that before the killing of Tamir, I would say the killing of Ayanna Stanley Jones had a similar impact on me. And before that, probably the killing of Amadou Diallo in New York, and then after the killing of Tamir, there were several others that also impacted me. Breonna Taylor, for example, Rakia Boyd, Tanisha Anderson, Sandra Bland, so many. So I just wanted to say a few words about Tamir. As we in the time frame of his birthday, June 25th, 2002. I want the world to know that letting a child go outside to play, never to come home again, is a parent's worst nightmare. That was a quote from Samaria Rice. And we're seeing a lot of that. But, it's not necessarily the same thing in terms of extrajudicial killing like Tamir. A lot of these young people are being killed, by our own people, which I was just, we were just talking about in terms of Black self-annihilation in service of white domination. The circumstances surrounding the police killing of Tamir Rice bothers me more than all the other extrajudicial killings. There's just something about that look on his face, sitting in the classroom, that stirs my emotions to this day. I wrote on my initial blog post, November 23rd, 2014, Tamir Rice profiled, playing on a swing set at a rec center with a toy gun while Black. His age was not a factor. His melanin was. The police did not see a 12-year-old on a swing set. They saw an armed Black criminal. The police had more than enough time to process the information to make a rational decision before they responded without an ounce of human sensitivity. So that was some of the things that I wrote on my blog post back in November of 2014. Just very briefly, we don't need to go through the whole story because I'm sure a lot of people know the details. The tragedy began with a call from a bystander, who I believe was a white man, at a recreation center park in Cleveland, who said someone on a swing set was pointing a pistol and scaring everyone. Well, if everyone was being scared, why wasn't he up and running away? Okay. The caller twice said the gun was probably fake and told dispatchers the person pulling the gun from his waistband was probably a juvenile. However, police dispatchers radioed to officers that there was a male with a gun threatening people outside the rec center. It's how things are communicated are extremely important. I mean, extremely important. And here, this was just very lax. Tamir was shot within 2 seconds by Officer Timothy Lman as a police cruiser skidded to a stop on snow-covered grass of the rec center. On the snow-covered grass of the rec center, the officers claimed the 12-year-old was reaching for his waistband. Reaching for what? A toy gun? Okay, reaching for waistband is always something you hear when someone is killed by the police. They always claim that someone is reaching for a gun, and the term they use his waistband. I did a frame-by-frame analysis of the Rice killing in a blog post on December 13th, 2015. So I'm not going to go into all of the details, but we'll put up the blog post so that you can reference it yourself. The frames began on the afternoon of November 22nd, 2014, at 3 hours 30 minutes and 1 second, or 15:30:01. Tamir was sitting calmly at a table under a shed in the park. At 15:30:13, the frame analyst notes that Rice is standing 10 seconds prior to the police vehicle stopping. So this is just going, in seconds. We can only imagine what was going through the mind of the 12-year-old as he saw a police car traveling across the snow-covered grass towards the park bench where he had been sitting. At 15:30:23, that's 3:30 and 23 seconds, the analyst notes Rice's right shoulder and arm move upward. Lman exits the police vehicle. The vehicle is still in motion. The upward movement could simply have been, okay, so what was happening is that the police was skidding on the grass and Officer Lman was jumping out of the car. All of this is just happening just in seconds, okay? The upward movement could imply that Rice was pulling out a gun, but his movements could also be a nervous or frightened reaction to the irrational behavior of the police officers. Perhaps he saw Lman's gun and was preparing to dodge gunfire, or he could have been attempting to raise his hands. They just said it was an upward motion, so we don't know exactly. You can see here he's not really going to have time to react. At the same second, in a different frame, the analyst says Rice reacts to a gunshot. The wording of the analyst appears to be designed to protect the police. He should have said Rice was shot by Officer Lman. I'm talking about the analyst here, who I'm listening to do this frame-by-frame analysis. Of course, like I said, this was back in 2015. Lman opened his door at the 22-second mark, exited the car, and fired shots hitting Rice at the 23-second mark, while the car was still in motion. Okay, so just a little over 1 second, less than 2 seconds. The 12-year-old literally had no time to react before the trigger-happy policeman opened fire. The bias of the analyst notwithstanding, at least he never associated Tamir Rice with a gun over those critical 22 seconds. So this whole thing takes place in 22 seconds. He was killed within 2 seconds. If the police said, raise your hands away, what can you do in 2 seconds? Somebody tell me. I mean, unless you can move with the strike speed of a king cobra. Okay. Right. Rice's family called the killing of Tamir a drive-by shooting. That's literally what it was, a drive-by shooting. A Cleveland grand jury failed to indict Officer Lman. Then the Obama administration refused to file civil rights charges against him. Okay, so based on the laws of the United States, if, for example, one level of the law enforcement system, in this case, a grand jury, who is presented evidence by a district attorney or a prosecuting attorney, and the saying in the law profession is that you can indict a ham sandwich. That's how easy it is to get an indictment if the prosecutor or the district attorney wants to get an indictment. Okay, in this case, they clearly didn't. The Obama administration, with a president who was a law professor and 2 black attorney generals, Eric Holt and Loretta Lynch, knew what the problem was when it came to filing civil rights charges in cases of police killings. It is the 1945 Supreme Court ruling, Screws versus the United States. And for 8 years, they refused to challenge it. So they were repeatedly asked, the Obama administration was repeatedly asked as these children were being killed, Trayvon Martin, all the others were being killed. They were being, why aren't you filing civil rights charges against these officers? Because the grand juries are not indicting them. And they had this excuse. Well, it's the Screws ruling. Well, what did you try to do about the Screws ruling for 8 years? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And so we're going to put up a link, so that people can go through in details. They failed Tamir Rice. Ayanna Stanley Jones, Trayvon Martin, Rakia Boyd, and every other victim of extrajudicial killings. Beyond the Obama administration, I don't understand why the civil rights establishment has not challenged the apartheid era Screws ruling. Okay, so remember, this ruling is handed down by the Supreme Court in 1945 during the era of American apartheid, but actually it's based on a change in the U.S. Criminal Code back in the early 1900s. I can't remember the exact year, but it's in the blog post that we're going to put up. And what they were trying to do back in the early 1900s was overthrow some of the legislation that had been passed by the radical Republicans during Reconstruction. It's what they were attempting to do. That shows you how long this particular law or ruling has been either in the U.S. Criminal Code or as part of a Supreme Court ruling. So why hasn't some civil rights organization, Legal Defense Fund, NAACP, the Congressional Black Caucus, why has no one challenged this? Because young people and people are still being killed and no civil rights charges are being filed. So I hope people will check out the blog post, because, you know, what we're saying here is that it's still the law in the United States. I'm referring to the Screws ruling, meaning the next victim of an extrajudicial killing would not have the benefit of potential justice, just like Tamir Rice in 2014. So, you know, that was, you know, something that we wanted to just post and get out there, just as a remembrance of this young man that was lynched. It was a lynching, no different from what happened to Emmett Lewis Till. Okay, it just happened to take place with a gun. Doesn't matter. It was an extrajudicial killing, which is actually what defines a lynching, an extrajudicial killing. Taking place by law enforcement, which in this country has qualified immunity that just allows them to get away literally with murder. So I hope, you know, that people appreciate that remembrance of Tamir, and, you know, we're going to continue to struggle until we can bring about justice for all of our people whose lives have been taken, you know, by this corrupt system.
Yeah, Tamir Rice's death always reminds me of one that was similar, but sometimes forgotten, in John Crawford, who was gunned down similarly inside of a Walmart.
Yep.
And not given the time to react, respond, not even given an opportunity to comply with any order. So that was one of the most devastating things about both of those murders, was that, you know, on the other hand, if those police officers saw someone that looked like them, they would have more compassion.
Yes, they would.
We definitely wishing Tamir Rice, who is a great ancestor now, a happy Earth Day, or belated Earth Day, when this will be posted. So, you know, we have to continue to call upon his name as an ancestor so that we can learn from what happened, but also do our best to make sure that we stop it from happening.
Yes.
And brothers and sisters, leave your comments down in the comment section. Until next time, Abiba Fahodier.
Abiba Fahodier.